What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I want to give you a quick overview of Lucid, what the data points are saying, and where things might be going from here. Before I get into any of that though, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Without further ado, let's get right to it. So Friday was another interesting day, so it had a little bit more of a downward pressure. It did get into the sixes briefly, bounced off of this S2 support level, so of course that goes to show that at least there's a lot of big support at that price point. So again, that might be a positive thing, but the fact that it did touch it is a little bit more of a negative, especially if you do, for instance, look at this, the options activity. There's a lot more puts being purchased. So $1.18 million in put premium versus $792,000 in call premium. So a lot more orientation towards puts, meaning that people are assuming it is going to go down. And if it does break this S2, unfortunately, then it will be trading between that 612 and 689. And if anything, if that does happen, I think the sentiment on Lucid is just going to go down so much. Given this nature and this environment right now, any stocks trading between the S3 and the S2 are just burning through an immense amount of cash and kind of have one foot in the grave, which does completely suck. And this is why I've already done a video saying that I personally feel, given what has happened to Lucid, is just very much unjustified. Of course, there is some red flags such as demand issues and so forth, but I think it actually has gone down too much. So of course, take that with a grain of salt because I'm not a financial advisor. You guys do your own due diligence at the end of the day. But like I said, if it does break this S2, then it is kind of getting grouped in with a lot of junk stocks. Even though I know a lot of people have very high expectations of Lucid and it is a very luxurious product, it's kind of being treated based on Wall Street as just junk in reality. Number of actual ETFs has been updated, and it goes to show that only 3 in the last quarter have increased. So there's 124 ETFs that do currently hold Lucid. And based on the latest round of 13Fs, you kind of see a wall of red. So a lot of institutions just completely got out of Lucid, which as you can see, it does look like majority were long positions. There was one call. So clearly behind the scenes, they weren't necessarily that optimistic on Lucid's future potentially. And of course, even here, you can see that there's a little bit more of a reduction in overall institutions buying Lucid. And for instance, as what you can see, majority of these transactions are actually sells based on the price that they sold for versus the bid and the ask. Everything for the most part, with the exception of 1 or 2, were sales. So of course, take that how you will. Out of anything, there is no new SEC filings, no new other PR or anything like that. There was PR that did come out on the 20th, but that's in relation to the stealth. I've already done a video on that. But as far as the next thing to really watch for is the upcoming right here, definitive 14A, so the shareholder meeting. And in this shareholder meeting that is going to be held on April 24th, I'm going to be live streaming that. So make sure you guys subscribe, and it is an early one, so 9 a.m. Pacific time, but still there is 5 things up for debate and proposals. I've already touched on this, nothing really risque with the exception of number 3 because that's the only real big monetary one. There is number 4, the stock incentive plan, and number 5 as well is the company's current certificate of incorporation for like restatement and stuff like that. Some people might care about the election of directors. I don't necessarily care much about that. And number 2 is just boring stuff. But overall, like I said, I'll give you guys a quick overview of some other data points, including what shorts are doing. So shorts did increase 1.16 million shares on Friday, and that works out to be 149.62 million shares overall being shorted, and that is around 24% of the free float. One thing to note though is cost to borrow is going up. So cost to borrow on Lucid, the average is 24.22%, the max being 39%. So behind the scenes, that's usually a telltale sign that maybe a small squeeze might be coming. Of course, I could be wrong when it comes down to that. And as I've said in the past, Lucid has always had a very good likelihood of a squeeze. The only thing it's always missed was a surprise catalyst. So maybe there is something potentially coming out very soon that people are assuming. Like I've mentioned, I think the gravity is kind of low-key set to come out in the next week potentially. I know that they do probably want to announce it prior to the actual earnings, and that's something that they historically always do, is have a big announcement prior to their earnings so then they can actually talk on that. So that might be something coming, like I said, but generally speaking, it is just going to follow the technicals up to that point. So right now on the technicals, things are looking fairly negative, like I mentioned, especially that it did touch that S2. And overall right here, stochastic is currently at 8, and there is a very big deviation of bearish sentiment behind the scenes. Number of retail investors have just been completely getting out of Lucid. They are done with Lucid. It's really sad to see, unfortunately, but I think this is something to do, and largely to do, with management. Management has just not been guiding Lucid in the right direction, and they've gone through 2 massive VP changes in the last year per se. So I think it was July 2022, and most recently last month, they've gone through a lot of VPs, and it does show that the sentiment is just negative, and the whole environment within Lucid is just not right. So of course, let me know you guys' thoughts on all of that in the comments below. So like I said, going into next week, I personally feel, unfortunately, it does have a good opportunity for a nice value rally, because a lot of value investors are going to be seeing Lucid at a substantial discount, but overall, there's a lot of negatives that might continue to bring it down, especially like I mentioned, when it comes down to big money taking a step back. And clearly, as you can tell based on options activity, a lot of people are assuming it's going to go down. Keep in mind, options activity doesn't necessarily move the stock price, it's just a little bit more of a sentiment. But overall, let me know your thoughts on that. Give yourself a shout out if you have been buying, selling, holding, what you have been doing with Lucid. Give yourself a shout out in the comments. One final thing I just wanted to share with you, there is a good promo with Moomoo for only April. All you have to do, open up a free account and you get 1 free stock. Each stock is valued up to $2,000, so complete no-brainer. Even if you just do that, it's a win-win in reality. As you can see, if you throw $100 at the account, you do get additional 4 free stocks. Moomoo does offer as well $0 commission, free level 2 trading. So like I said, take advantage of this while you can. Link in the description below and also the comments. Without further ado, I appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.